Now, in this section, 5.3 deals with decimals and fractions. In this particular section, we'll learn about converting fractions to decimals, ordering decimals and fractions, simplifying expressions using the order of operations, and we'll also take a look at an application type problem, finding the circumference and area of a circle. So in the first part here, look at converting decimals to fractions. Just to let you know, I know on the TI-30 calculator, there's a button on the calculator that will let you convert fractions to decimals and decimals to fractions. Now, it's one thing to know about the function on your calculator. It's another thing to be able to just go ahead and find out how to use it before you take the test. So let's take a look at converting fractions to decimals here. So to convert a fraction to a decimal, divide the numerator by the denominator of the fraction. Here we have 3/4, we want to convert that to a decimal. So you go ahead and divide it out. Notice here we have 4 divided by 3. So then they replace that here, and they put the decimals in. Notice they put a decimal right above it. Then you do your computation. So they have 4 going into 3. But then they go ahead and they put the decimal here. So I'll rewrite it, and they said 4 goes into 3.00. And I put the decimal right above it. You want to get that far with it in the beginning. Okay. So 4 goes into 3 times. Okay. 4 will go into 37 times. 4 times 7 is 28. 30 minus 28 is 2. And we're down to 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract, remainder 0. And we're done. Next here, right as the decimal, notice we have a negative in the front of it. So the final answer is going to be a negative number. So when we divide out here, I put the decimal point in. Then we go ahead and go through the process. Set up the problem first completely before you do your computation. Set up the problem first completely before you do your computation. So 2 goes into 7 3 times. 2 to 3 is 6. Subtract from 7 is 1. After we subtract, we bring down. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract, remainder 0. So here you can see it's equal to a negative 3.5. Now to go into a concept of repeating decimals. Okay. So you can see an example here that we divide 4 by 3. We're dividing 4 by 3. And you notice it doesn't seem to end. You look for a remainder of 0. You never get a remainder of 0. You notice, of course, we have 3's and they go on forever. We call these types of decimals repeating decimals. It's a decimal where the last digit or group of digits repeats endlessly. Now we show repeating decimals by putting in an overbar to show for the digits that are repeating. So here, see the 3's are repeating, it's the overbar over the 3. So here the 6's are repeating, it's overbar over the 6. The 1 6 is repeating, it's overbar over the 1 6. Okay. In this case here, they want us to add these two together. So what we can do is go ahead and convert the 7/8 to a decimal. Seven-eighths to a decimal here. And then you add them together. Now you want us to order. We're building what we already know about, ordering decimals and fractions. So here that we're ordering, what we have to do first is convert the fraction to a decimal here. So we divide out here, with 0.375. If you compare the place values, the tens place is a 3 here and a 4 there, so 0.4 is larger. Then you go to rewrite it, larger than 3/8. This one here, you have a negative and a negative, so they convert that fraction to a decimal. So here we have a negative 3/4, which will be a negative 0.75, and that's a negative. So since we're dealing with two negatives, the larger one is going to be the one that's closest to 0. In this case here, 0.5 is closer to 0 than a negative 0.75, and that's when it's larger. Notice what I said here, when you deal with negatives, the negative number that is closest to 0 is the largest number when they're both negative. Now they want us to put these order from smallest to largest. We convert these into decimals here. Then we can compare the place values. The tens place, we compare the hundreds place. Okay, see which one is largest, see which one is smallest. Then we can put them in order from smallest to largest. Then we convert them back to fractions when need be, from smallest to largest. Don't forget to read this thing, smallest to largest. Don't take it for granted. Largest to smallest. It says smallest to largest. Don't forget that. Simplify expressions using order of operations. So when you simplify this order of operations, you do as much, just like before, you do what's in the parentheses first, and then we do what's outside. So 18.3 minus 21.7. Then we multiply, and that's our value. This one here, you do what's in the parentheses first, and then you multiply. So now multiply by two fractions in this case. Then I simplify even further, it's 3. And this one here, a larger one. So you take care of your exponent first. There, 101. Then you take care of your multiplication and division, goes from left to right. So 6 divided by 0.6 is going to be 10. Then you take care of that multiplication there. It's going to be 0.8. Yeah, 0.01. Addition and subtraction from left to right. You add 10 plus 0.8 and minus 0.01. And then that's 5. So you just follow the order of operations. Just remember when we did order of operations over fractions, we did the same thing. In this case here, we're doing the same thing. Because remember, decimals are a special type of fraction. So the same properties would still apply. And this one here, take care of the exponent first. Then we take care of our multiplication. Now we take care of our division. Or addition, I said, the addition. Now this last one here deals with find the area. Now what is the area? What is the circumference? These are the parts of a circle here. The circumference of a circle is simply the distance around the outer edge. The diameter of a circle is simply the distance from the one edge of the circle through the center to the other edge of the circle. That is your diameter. And your radius is just half of the diameter from the center to the outer edge. Okay. So now we look at properties of a circle here. R is the length of the radius, D is the diameter. So you can see here that the diameter is equal to twice the radius. So the circumference formula here is 2 times pi times r. The circumference is simply 2 times pi times r. And the area of a circle is pi r squared. And there's another one here for the formula of circumference. It's equal to pi times the diameter. So in this first example, given a radius of 10 inches, find the area. So I write out my formula, plug into my formula. Still haven't done any computation yet. Then I simplify. On the order of operations, 10 squared is 100. There. So the answer is going to be 100 pi. And if you want to approximate it even more, you can write in 3.14 as your approximation. You can use 314 extensions there. Circle has a radius of 10 centimeters, and find the area, circumference and the area. So our formula for circumference is 2 pi r. My r radius is 10, so I plug into it. Then I simplify, following the order of operations. Don't try to do it all in your head. Set up the problem first. Write out the formula. And plug into it. And then simplify. Find the area. So write your formula first. Then you plug in for your r. And you need to simplify the expression to find your area. This one area. Find the circumference in an area. So they gave us the radius 42. So we write out the formula for the circumference. Replace r with 42.5. Then we multiply. This gives us our circumference. Then we must find the area. Replace r with 42.5. Then you start following the order of operations. You square 42.5 and multiply it out. You get that many square centimeters. Notice the area is in square centimeters. And the circumference is simply a length. Remember that the circumference is just simply the distance around the outer edge of a circle, and the area is simply the amount of space that it covers, the amount of ground that it covers in square feet. Now they want us to approximate circles a radius of 14/15. Approximate a circumference and area. Now they're doing the same thing with fractions. So you set up your problem, plug in your fraction. Okay. And this gives you your circumference there. Then they want you to find the area. Now this time for pi, they use 22/7 for pi. Number of square meters. And that is the end of 5.3.